Out in the wild, danger doesn't always come with a warning. It shows up when everything feels calm. One moment you're hiking alone, the next you're just feet away from 3 massive bears, or watching a glowing object in the sky react instantly to your presence. These encounters blur the line between coincidence and something far harder to explain. So, when the unexpected happens right in front of you, would you stay or trust your instincts and walk away? This frightening moment happened during an afternoon hike as a woman moved alone through a wooded area. Everything felt normal until she suddenly heard heavy motion coming down the trail. Her instincts reacted immediately, and she quietly moved behind a group of bushes, barely making a sound. What she witnessed next nearly made her freeze. 3 large bears came into view, playing and walking directly along the same path she had just used. They were huge close, and completely unaware she was only a few steps away. Situations like this show how quickly a peaceful hike can become risky. If you were just feet away from 3 bears, would you remain completely still, or let fear take over your reaction? In the spring of 2006, campers at Big South Fork in Tennessee were caught off guard when a powerful storm suddenly rolled in.
Oh, damn it.
It's happening! It's happening!
It's melting the road!
Holy crap! This is crazy!
A tornado formed nearby, but it narrowly missed their location. Large hailstones began falling rapidly, slamming into tents and striking the ground with force. One tent pole snapped under the impact, although the main tent somehow managed to stay standing. Even more unexpectedly, the campfire continued burning throughout the storm. When it finally moved on, the area was covered in large pieces of ice. Getting hit by one of them could have caused serious harm. Moments like this show how quickly conditions can turn dangerous. If you were inside a tent as hail that size started hitting, would you stay where you are and wait it out, or try to make a run for shelter? This unsettling clip was recorded by a group camping across a river late at night as the first light of morning began to appear. They stood near the water, filming the calm and quiet surroundings. One person had a laser pointer and casually aimed it upward into the sky. That was when they noticed a bright object hovering above, oddly still and glowing against the early dawn. Out of curiosity, the laser beam was pointed directly at the object. Almost instantly, it reacted. The object burst into an intense flash, producing a blinding surge of light that filled the frame. The response felt immediate and aggressive, nothing like a simple reflection or typical aircraft behavior, more like a sudden warning. In the confusion, the camera slipped from the person's hands and hit the ground. After that, the footage shows only darkness with panicked voices yelling in fear. If a light in the sky could respond that sharply to a small laser, was it just an unusual coincidence, or did they set off something they didn't understand? Several boys went into the forest to camp during their summer break, expecting a quiet night away from everything. But once night fell, the woods began to feel different, uneasy, but still curious. They slowly lifted the tent flap to look outside. That was when they noticed it. Something or someone stood just beyond the tree line. 2 glowing eyes looked directly at them, faintly catching the light.
Ya Allah.
Kemana dia? Kemana dia? Dia jalan.
Its face seemed pale and stretched with light-colored hair hanging still around it. The figure did not move like a normal person or animal. There was something unnatural about its presence, something that felt hard to explain. Then, just as suddenly as it appeared, it vanished into the darkness without a sound and without leaving any trace. The boys stayed frozen, realizing that whatever it was had been watching them. If it could appear and disappear like that, how long had it been standing there before they even looked outside? A woman was camping alone in the woods with her dog when she suddenly woke up to something deeply unsettling. It sounded like a large number of wild animals had gathered around their campsite. Both she and her dog stayed completely still, listening closely to every movement and sound outside. They remained frozen in silence until it finally seemed safe enough to leave. If you woke up surrounded by unseen movement in the dark, would you stay completely still like she did or try to run for it? He was riding his bike deep through the bush, expecting nothing more than a quiet trail and the sound of his engine echoing between the trees. Then he noticed it, a dark cave hidden among the woods. Curiosity pulled him closer. Maybe someone needed help. Maybe it was nothing at all. But the moment he stopped, everything changed.
Is that my fork? What? Hello? No. It's like a trail just leading me. That was a bone I just broke. Why is that? Help. Hello? What the?
From somewhere inside the cave, a voice suddenly called out for help. It sounded human, almost unnaturally so. His heart started pounding as fear crept up his spine. The voice continued growing louder and seeming closer, as if whatever was inside was moving toward him. Panic took over. He quickly got back on his bike and sped away. Branches cracked behind him as he raced off, convinced something was chasing him. If you heard a voice like that in a remote cave, would you turn back to check or keep going and never look behind you? During a strong windstorm in October 2023, someone recorded a disturbing scene deep within a forest. As powerful gusts pushed through the trees, something even more unusual began happening beneath them. The ground itself started to move slowly, rising and falling, almost as if it were breathing. Moments later, the forest floor appeared to split and stretch, shifting like it was about to pull everything above it downward. It did not resemble a typical sinkhole, and it did not suddenly collapse. Instead, the entire section of earth rolled in one smooth, unsettling motion, creating the impression that it was somehow alive. Viewers who saw the footage were shocked, saying they had never witnessed anything like it. If you saw the ground beneath your feet begin to move like that, would you stay to film it or run before it shifted again? This footage shows a cave explorer documenting what was supposed to be a routine descent. At first, nothing appears out of the ordinary, just tight tunnels, damp air, and the familiar discomfort of squeezing through narrow spaces. But then the camera picks up something unusual. Along the cave floor and walls is a thick red mud. It does not seem to be blood, at least that is what the person filming tries to believe, yet it is unsettling enough to raise concern.
Fucking weird noises.
There is no clear evidence that anything has been living down there. No footprints, no remains, no obvious signs of recent activity. Still, the deeper the explorer goes, the heavier the atmosphere feels. The silence becomes oppressive, broken only by breathing and the sound of movement against stone. Maybe the red mud and the silence have simple explanations, but why did it feel so strongly like something was aware of their presence? A group of explorers ventured into the dense pine barrens of New Jersey, determined to look for signs of the legendary Jersey Devil. Flashlights cut through the thick darkness as they moved cautiously ahead, shadows shifting with each step. The air felt heavy, almost as if the forest itself had gone still. Before long, they discovered a small stone structure, partially open on one side. Torches burned both inside and outside their flames, casting flickering light across the walls. Inside, the scene was deeply unsettling. Objects had been arranged with clear purpose, and among them sat a human skull facing into the dim glow. The space carried a strong sense of ritual, something deliberate and ominous, as though dark ceremonies had taken place there. Fear closed in on the group as they realized the forest did not feel empty. Something unseen seemed to be watching the weight of local legends pressing in around them. Slowly, with their hearts racing, they backed away. If rituals like that were meant to summon or honor the Jersey Devil, would you feel safe standing there after dark? Jade was hiking across a wide, empty stretch of desert when something unusual caught her eye. Sitting alone in the sand was a large, sun-bleached cooler left behind and completely out of place. In the middle of nowhere, it immediately felt suspicious.
Suspicious? Cooler? Literally in the middle of nowhere.
Curiosity took over, and she decided to open it. What she found made her stop cold.
Dude, that might be a dead body.
Inside the cooler were bones. In remote desert environments, discoveries like that can sometimes point to serious and troubling situations. Not wanting to take any chances, Jade called the non-emergency police line. A deputy arrived shortly after and checked the contents. After a brief inspection, he determined the remains appeared to be animal, not human, and no further action was taken. The story continued when the footage later spread online. A forensic anthropologist reviewed it and came to the same conclusion: the bone was not human. Still, the question of how and why the cooler ended up in such an isolated location was never answered. Maybe it was simply discarded waste left behind, or maybe there is more to how it got there. If you found something like that alone in the desert, would you open it or walk away and never look back? A group of travelers was crossing a vast desert when they captured this unsettling footage. In the distance, a massive sandstorm was rushing toward them, swallowing the horizon as it moved closer. Sandstorms are highly dangerous. They can erase visibility within seconds, make navigation nearly impossible, and send debris flying with enough force to injure people or damage vehicles. Did they manage to escape in time? Did they stay inside the vehicle and wait for it to pass? What happened next remains unknown. If you saw a wall of sand racing toward you across open desert, would you try to outrun it or stay where you are and hope your vehicle could endure the impact? This terrifying incident happened to a group of men hiking deep in the forest. They were exhausted and drained, and when they finally reached a waterfall, they felt a sense of relief. That was when everything changed.
Naik, woi! Naik, wah, balik itu naon! Itu naon itu! Woi, naik! Wow! Itu naon, hei! Naik, woi! Naik, wah, balik itu naon! Itu naon itu! Woi, naik!
One of them noticed movement near the rocks beside the waterfall. He quickly alerted the others. When they all turned to look, the figure slowly began to emerge from beneath the rock, moving toward them. Fear hit instantly. Without waiting to find out what it really was, they rushed out of the water and ran. If you were standing there and saw something like that moving toward you, would curiosity make you stay, or would instinct push you to run as well? A woman sets up camp alone, deep in the woods, planning to spend the night surrounded by silence and darkness. But as the hours pass, the stillness begins to feel unnatural, as if the forest itself is holding its breath. The footage shared on Real D's Dark Adventures on TikTok shows the moment she steps outside her tent late at night and scans the trees with a flashlight. The beam suddenly catches a massive shape staring back at her, completely still and fully visible with eyes reflecting the light.
It's the same one. That's big, guys. That's big. I'm telling you, if it stands up. That's big. That's big. That's big. I don't know how. That's big. I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. No. Guys, those eyes got like a foot. Okay.
It appears far larger than any animal she can recognize, and the distance between them feels dangerously close. Some believe lighting and depth can distort size in the dark, while others point to how unfamiliar shapes can feel threatening at night. If something was watching you before you noticed it, would you still think it was just another camping trip? Fahad M.K. went camping deep inside a dense forest. During the day, the area looked thick and overgrown, filled with shadows. He rode his bike through the forest, searching for a suitable campsite, then climbed a tall tree to check the surroundings. While looking down, he heard a sudden sound. A tiger was hiding below, watching the exact spot he had planned to camp. Fahad realized that climbing down could put him in immediate danger. Fear set in as the forest instantly shifted from peaceful to deadly. The encounter left him shaken and served as a harsh reminder that predators can appear without warning. In the wild, danger can stay hidden until it's too close. Knowing that, would you still camp in a place like this? This Reddit user was out hiking when he encountered something deeply unsettling. In the middle of the quiet woods, tucked inside a hollow tree, he found a large dried fish head sitting there, as if it had been placed deliberately. It didn't make sense why anyone would carry something like that deep into the forest and hide it inside a tree. Some believe it could have been a strange prank or an object left for a specific purpose, while others think it may have had a more symbolic meaning. If you found it, would you keep walking or leave immediately? This disturbing clip was posted on Neo's Nemo Styles Instagram. A small group of friends went camping deep inside a dense forest as night gradually settled around them. Dry leaves covered the ground, and the woods felt quiet, almost unnaturally so. They set up their tents in a small clearing on a slight rise, believing it would be a safe place to spend the night. Without warning, the darkness filled with terrifying and unexplained sounds. Screams, growls, and howls echoed through the trees. The friends froze their hearts, pounding, unable to tell whether what they were hearing came from a person, an animal, or something else entirely. Some think it could have been wildlife or unusual echoes in the forest, while others aren't convinced it was anything ordinary. When every sound turns into a threat after dark, would you stay in the woods if you heard something that didn't feel real? A hiker exploring the Devil's Tree in Port St. Lucie came across a deeply unsettling scene.
Is there a bunch of pictures out here with people's names on them? Kevin, Erica Canty. I'm in the Devil's Tree forest. This is really weird.
Scattered around the twisted roots of the tree were photographs of strangers spread across the ground with no clear pattern. Some of the photos were torn, others burned along the edges, and several had names written across them. The arrangement felt intentional, as if the images had been placed with purpose rather than left behind by accident. The discovery raised disturbing questions about who brought them there and why they were set out in such an isolated place. When personal items appear deep in the woods like this, would you see it as coincidence or something meant to be found? While hiking deep in the forest, this person noticed something that made him pause. At first, it seemed like an ordinary tree, but up close the bark formed the outline of a skull with hollow eyes, a nose and teeth. It felt like a face trapped within the wood, quietly watching. He snapped a photo and shared it online, where people quickly started asking questions. Some believe it was a natural growth or a disease, while others aren't convinced. If a tree looked like it was staring back at you, what would you think it really was? A TikTok user noticed something unusual on their porch when a large spider claimed one corner as its territory. At first, it seemed ordinary until one day the wind chime suddenly stopped making noise. Curious, they went to check what had happened. What they found was unexpected.
Y'all ain't gonna believe this. I got this spider live in the corner of my porch. And I guess my wind chime was bothering him, because he done tied my wind chime up, y'all, to the house and to that.
Somehow the spider had wrapped it up completely, almost as if the constant sound had been bothering it, and had found a way to silence it. If something like this appeared on your porch, would you see it as coincidence or something more intentional? While hiking along a quiet forest trail, she suddenly stopped. Hanging from a tree branch was something unsettling. A strange figure made of sticks and dried husks, wrapped with a red cloth, swayed gently in the breeze. It looked intentional, almost as if it had been placed there to be noticed. She didn't touch it. Instead, she recorded what she saw and continued down the trail, her heart racing. After posting the video online, viewers pointed out that it resembled a handmade corn husk doll, something some believe is meant to ward off spirits or invite them. But who put it there, and why leave it deep in the woods? If you came across something like this, would you stop to investigate or walk away immediately? He was walking alone through the forest, the surroundings so quiet that he could hear only his own footsteps. Suddenly, he noticed signs that felt deeply unsettling, fresh blood smeared along the trail. Even as fear took hold, he kept moving forward. Ahead, something appeared in the darkness.
Jadi kepalanya tuh teman. Astagfirullah. 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 Allahumma sholli ala sayyidina kepala. Allahu Akbar.
It looked dark, twisted, and seemed to move among the trees, sending him into panic. The video ends without any explanation. Do you think it was just the trail of an injured animal, or something he was never meant to encounter? While hiking late at night, a man suddenly noticed something unsettling ahead.
Things you don't want to see looking at you at night. See the eyes? Yep.
Deep in the darkness, a pair of glowing eyes seemed to be staring directly back at him. With his heart pounding, he slowly moved closer. As the distance closed, the fear began to fade. The eyes belonged to a small group of deer standing quietly beside the trail, their gaze reflecting the light as they calmly watched him pass. In moments like that, when your mind fills in the gaps before you know the truth, would you trust your instincts or stop to look again? This person's mother was out hiking when she encountered something she had never seen before. A group of large, shaggy animals was moving calmly across the trail. Confused and amazed, she pulled out her phone to capture the moment, knowing she might never see anything like it again. After the video was shared online, viewers quickly identified the animals as Scottish Highland cattle. They are known for their long horns and thick, fluffy coats, and are considered one of the oldest cattle breeds in the world, originally from the rugged Highlands of Scotland. If you turned a corner and saw something like that standing in your path, would you step closer for a better look or slowly move away? This hiker took on one of the most terrifying trails imaginable, a narrow mountain ridge with steep drops on both sides. The crest was so thin that a single misstep could lead to disaster. The jagged rocky path required total focus, turning every movement into a test of balance and nerve. Instead of turning back, he kept going, driven forward by the rush and the intimidating beauty stretching far below. Every gust of wind and every shift of loose rock made his heart race faster. It was breathtaking and dangerous at the same time. Some say moments like this sharpen the mind while others see only risk. Would you walk a trail where one small mistake could be fatal? During a typical hike, this man never imagined his quiet walk would turn into a pulse-racing moment. With no warning, a giant alligator much bigger than anything he had ever seen crossed straight over his path. It was enormous, strong, and close enough that he could hear its claws dragging along the ground. He decided to film the scene rather than risk a single mistake. Luckily, the huge animal turned toward the lake next to the path and slid under the water, fading from view. Moments like this show how a normal hike can shift when wildlife shows up without warning. Would you know how to respond if it didn't leave? This Reddit user thought she was settling in for a quiet night of camping until everything suddenly changed. Around midnight, she heard heavy footsteps outside her tent, slow, deep, and deliberate. When she cautiously peered through the thin fabric, her heart nearly stopped. A large bear had come out of the woods, circling the campsite as if looking for something. All she could do was stay completely still, hoping the animal wouldn't pick up her scent. Encounters like this can depend on luck, wind, or timing, but in moments that silent fear can take over quickly. While this hiker was deep in the forest, far from any trailheads or other people, he came across something unsettling. Hanging from a tree was a small wooden structure. Inside were two eerie dolls facing outward, positioned as if they were watching the woods. Questions ran through his mind about who had placed them there and what they were meant to see. Whether it was a warning, a ritual, or a prank taken too far, the feeling of being watched didn't go away. From that point on, what had started as a calm hike turned into a tense walk back to safety. If you found something like that deep in the woods, would you keep going or turn back right away? A Facebook user and her boyfriend stepped outside around 2 a.m. to take night mode photos of the northern lights. While he was standing there, he heard movement and rustling behind him and assumed it was a deer. He turned and took a photo in that direction. Later, when they looked over the image, they noticed something far more unsettling. Instead of an animal, the photo seemed to show a strange, distorted figure, something the user said resembled a skinwalker. She explained that there was usually nothing on the trampoline that could have caused this, as she saw it every day and had never noticed anything that could explain the shape captured in the image. Whatever it was, neither of them could explain it, and the photo left them deeply shaken, raising the possibility that the image captured a moment they were never meant to notice. and leaving the question of what was really standing there that night. A woman once took a cheerful photo smiling at the camera, and everything seemed normal until the image was developed. Just above her head, a strange human-like figure appeared with a distorted face, turning a happy moment unsettling. What would you think if you found something like this in your own photo? A woman was taking photos of the forest for an art project when she later noticed something unsettling. After zooming in, a tall humanoid shape could be seen standing between the trees. The figure appeared to be dressed in dark clothing. She stated that no other people were anywhere nearby at the time. Whoever was there remains unknown, leading to speculation about whether the figure could have been part of some kind of ritual or simply a staged hoax, and leaving the question of what was really standing in the forest that day. A group of paranormal investigators went out to explore a remote area in South Africa that locals said was haunted. They spent the night using cameras and audio recorders, hoping to capture something unusual. Around midnight, their investigation took an unexpected turn. They saw what looked like a young girl, but her body appeared faint and almost transparent. Shaken and unsure of what they were seeing, they quickly packed up and left. Was it real, or did the darkness play tricks on their eyes? Somewhere deep in the desert near South Las Vegas, someone discovered a truly unsettling sight. In the middle of nowhere stood an abandoned Chuck E. Cheese animatronic completely alone. The surrounding area is mostly empty and is sometimes used for shooting practice. The animatronic appears damaged and heavily weathered, suggesting it had been left there for a long time. No confirmed details explain how or why it ended up in that location, but the scene gives off an undeniably eerie feeling, leaving people to wonder who left it there and for what reason. A man from British Columbia had recently purchased a new phone with an infrared camera and started testing it by taking photos of his yard. That was when one image caught his attention. In the photo, a strange figure appeared. Whatever was captured looked humanoid and seemed to be moving on all fours, but the image quality made it difficult to clearly identify what it was. The photo was later shared online by a friend, but no further details were ever provided, leaving the question of what the camera captured and what was in the yard that night unanswered. Photographer Martin Alvarez was exploring a lava tube cave in Chile to document unusual mineral and clay formations when he noticed something moving in the distance. He quickly lifted his camera and took several photos. The figure appeared low to the ground, dog-like, and moving on all fours. It did not match any known animal native to the area. Disturbed by what he saw, Alvarez decided not to go deeper into the cave and left the site. He later reported the sighting in a nearby village. According to Alvarez, local residents reacted with concern rather than surprise, pointing to old legends connected to caves in the Patagonia region and stories of strange creatures said to live underground. What Alvarez encountered has never been officially explained, leaving people to wonder whether it was an unknown animal or something tied to local folklore. These photos were taken by Arkady Tishkov, who estimated the figure in the images to be about 1.4 meters tall, or roughly 4 feet 7 inches. Along with the original photos, a second set of interpretive illustrations was later released based on the same material. The images quickly sparked debate, with some viewers saying the shape was simply a natural rock formation, while others connected it to older ideas like the so-called horned yeti. With no physical evidence ever confirmed, the photos remain unverified, leaving one question. What do you think the images actually show? A trail camera deep in the Missouri woods captured a strange image showing a hazy shape hovering just above the ground. Some believe it was only a moth caught in motion, while others think it was something more. The camera was set on a small rock burial mound known for eerie stories, and the image still leaves people wondering what the camera really captured. This footage shows a hunter handling a captured baby moose, not ready for what happened once the restraints were taken off.
Here now. Come on, little girl. Hey. Oh, you're a mean little girl.
The animal reacted suddenly, catching him by surprise. Fortunately, no serious injury occurred. Viewers later pointed out that removing the blindfold too early was a mistake, and if this had been a full-grown moose, the outcome could have been far worse, raising the question of how close this encounter came to turning deadly. In the winter of 2017, a Reddit user posted a photo of his younger sister from a winter camping trip when they were the only ones outside. Later, they noticed two faint figures in the image. One figure looked almost exactly like his sister, suggesting a camera glitch, but the second figure did not resemble anyone who was there. The user believes it was likely a glitch, yet still has no explanation for that second shape, leaving the question of what the photo really captured. In 1967, a man named Harry Dack took a simple photograph in the backyard of his home in Carlton, Howe. The image showed his grandson Neil smiling at the camera while holding the family's Jack Russell Kelly. At the time, nothing seemed out of the ordinary about the moment the photo was taken. When the film was developed, however, a faint gray, translucent figure that appeared to be a woman could be seen beside the child. Photolab staff confirmed the negative had not been altered, and with no editing tools available at the time, they could not provide an explanation. The identity of the so-called Gray Lady was never discovered, leaving the question of who or what appeared in the photo.
That's it for tonight. Which moment creeped you out the most? Drop it in the comments. Have your own story? Share it with us, and stay tuned. The next one is even darker.